Okay guys, so today I am going to talk you through a sync map. A sync map is essentially a visual way of seeing what every bit of information that was recorded in one day or one morning on multiple devices. So whether that be one camera and a separate sound recorder, or more than one camera and separate sound recorder. Or it might be that there's multiple cameras recording pictures and sound and you don't have a separate sound recorder. But this is a way of putting all that information onto one new timeline so we can see exactly where things were recording and check that they are in sync. That means that the audio matches the pictures or the two cameras recording are matching simultaneous action. So I've set up a project called Sync Maps. I'm just going to go into that now. In this project, we have just a couple of areas that I've already marked up. You can ignore this other projects. This is for some other setups we're going to do later. For this example, I'm just going to work in my rushes folder. Inside the rushes folder, I have 1 day's worth of rushes, so that is broken down into another folder. And we can see that I have day one vision and day one sound. In each of those will be one bin, one relating to pictures and one relating to sound. So the first thing I'm going to do when I'm going to build a sync map is check what kind of time code I have for both the camera and the sound. So the way I do that is open both bins, okay, by double clicking on the icon here. Okay, the information that I want to look at in the bin is time code information. We have some default bin setups already in Media Composer. For now, what I'm going to do is click on this little icon down here and choose the basic option. I'm going to mirror that on the other bin here and click the basic option. And what I'm looking for is the time code window here. So the start time code on both bins. And what I can see quite quickly is that what we have here is time of day time code. So that means I can tell by the way the time code is set up that the camera operator hit record at 12 hours, so that's 12 o'clock, 9 minutes, 17 seconds and 1 frame. Whereas the sound recorder started a little bit early. He had a test record earlier, which ran for about 19 seconds. And then he started picking up again at 12:09:08:14. So we can kind of guess that these are mirroring each other in terms of time code. So that's a good starting point for us to build a sync map. So the first stage of building a sync map is to create a timeline of each of our vision and audio separately. Now there's a very quick way to do this, and Avid will build you that timeline on its own. So the first thing I'm going to do is select all the clips in this bin. There's two ways of doing that. One is to click the first clip in the bin, then go down to the last clip in the bin, and with the shift key held down, click on the icon. That will select all of them. Okay. An alternative to that, and much quicker, is just to highlight the bin, and we can tell the bin is highlighted by its slightly blue colour at the top. So as we click on this bin, it changes to a lighter blue, and I press Command A, and that will select all the clips in the bin. So to make our sequence of this bin, it's very, very simple. We go up to the clip menu here, okay, and we discover a little option here called auto sequence. And what this will do, it'll look at the time code of the first clip, build a sequence based on that first time code, and then add all the other clips to a sequence in their relative time code position. So if I hit auto sequence, we'll have this new sequence made, and you'll see that a timeline opens up in Media Composer of all those shots in the relative time code on the timeline. So that means wherever there was a pause in time record, there is a gap for that length of time before the next shot is active. Just as a checker for this, we're going to go up to this little window here, and we can see in the time code window up here that the first shot we've got, it's 12:09:17:01. If we go to our bin here, this time code is 12:09:17:01. Okay, so that's the first shot there. If I scroll spuriously down to this shot, okay, and look at the time code here, it's 13:46:44:17. So I can quite easily look at this and find that same clip here based on the same time code. Okay, so this is a time code built sequence where everything is laid on the timeline at the time of day it was filmed. Okay. So we're going to repeat that sequence for the sound roll. So I found my sound roll bin, drag it over here. And again, I'm going to highlight all the clips. So exactly the same process. Go up to the clip menu and select auto sequence. The same thing will happen. It will build a timeline that matches exactly where and when the sound recorder is press record, and includes all the gaps and breaks in timecode recording. So there we have two separate sequences. Okay, one for sound, one for vision. Okay, at this stage, I would always rename these just so it's very clear what I've got in my timeline. So this is day one, vision, and I'll call it auto sequence to match the process I went through to make it. And then over here in the sound roll, I will do day one, sound, auto sequence. If I can spell auto sequence right. Okay. It's really important that you keep a track of the names of your sequences, because they're going to be always displayed in the top right hand corner of your window, your record window. And if you don't keep an eye on that, you may find out that you're editing on the wrong sequence, and we don't want that to happen. Okay, so we now have two sequences that start time of day just around 10 past 12 in the afternoon. But what we want to do with these now is combine them into one new sequence. Okay, and that new sequence is essentially going to be a sync map of one camera and one separate sound recording device. And it will map out where the camera and sound match each other, and from that position we can turn them into locked sync clips. Okay, so the first stage of this is we're going to make a brand new bin. And we're going to call that day one sync map. And this is where we make sure that we put our sync map, and it makes it easy for us to find if we need to. Okay, so that sync map is going to be a brand new sequence. Okay, now most of the time people will, to make a new sequence, go up to the timeline menu, new sequence. To make a sync map though, what we want to do is replicate the time codes that we find here. If I just make a new timeline, new sequence, okay, what we'll find is, if I click the basic timecode menu, we have a start time of 010000. That bears no resemblance to either of the other two sequences' time codes, so it isn't very useful for us for the purposes of building a sync map. I could renumber this, okay, by just typing over the time code, but that's a dull process to go through twice. Okay, so I'm going to delete this sequence. So what we're going to do to build our first sequence is we're going to find one of these sequences that has the earliest start time code, and we're going to copy that, and that will be the basis of our sync map. So I can see very quickly that the sound recorder started recording earliest at 081706 as opposed to 091701. So I'm going to copy this sequence and put it into my sync map bin. There are two ways to do that. One of them is to duplicate the sequence, okay, and I do that by pressing Command D. That creates a copy, and I could drag that into my bin here. Okay, and rename it day one sync map. Okay, like so. Okay, that's one way of doing it. Okay, another way of doing it, okay, if I delete that, is to highlight the sequence, press the Option key or Alt key if you're on a PC, click and drag the sequence into my sync map bin, and that will create a copy. You can see here that the two time codes now and the durations match of these two sequences, here and here. Okay, again, I'm going to rename this to day one sync map. And then I'm going to make sure that I double click on this icon to load my sync map into my record side. And we want to make sure that our sync map is loaded up here. So that's a copy of our audio sequence. That now means that I can get rid of this to save any confusion, close my day one sound rushes, okay, to make sure I'm not editing over that by mistake. Okay, so we already have our sync map started with our audio. Okay, obviously we need to add vision to that. So the quickest way to add a new vision track to our sequence is to press the Command Y key. That creates a new video track. And essentially what I'm going to do now, if I just hide my sync map window for now, is I'm going to take my sequence of vision and I'm going to edit it on top of my audio sequence, okay, our sync map sequence here. What I want to do that is drag the icon for the auto sequence and put it into the source window. Okay, source window here. Okay, that way I can use this now as an editing source to lay onto my timeline. What we'll see now is that we have on our left-hand side select columns, we only have a vision option, which references this window here. Okay, so the green timeline, sorry, green time selector matches our green vision selector here. There is no sound recorded with this camera, so it's vision only. On the right hand side though, the blue selectors, we have 5 audio channels. We want to make sure we don't do anything destructive to those audio channels, so I'm going to deselect all of those by clicking on them here. Okay, a quick way to select and deselect them is to hold the shift key down, click on one and just drag up. Okay, so I'm going to make sure they're grayed out so I don't overwrite any of the the audio. Okay, our next stage. At the moment, we have still 2 very different time codes at the moment. If you remember, our sound recorder started recording before our camera operator hit record. So we have a 12:08:17:06 start time here, whereas our camera operator started at 12:09:17. So what we need to do is ensure that my blue cursor isn't at the wrong time code. At the moment it is. So I'm going to move forward to 12:09:17:01. Okay, 01. Okay, this is now a sync time code with these 2 clips. On my record side now, I'm going to set an in point to make sure I don't lose that reference. I now have matching time codes on both sides of the source and record window. I'm now in a position to edit this shot and the whole timeline linked to it onto my audio, sorry. Okay, so 2 ways to overwrite this. Okay, I can either use the overwrite red button here, click, or I can just press the letter B on the keyboard and that will do the same job. And what will happen, we'll lay all our pictures on top of our sound. And what we'll see very quickly is they kind of match, okay, just by looking at them. Okay, I'm going to use my scale bar just to zoom in a little bit. Okay. And I'm going to hit play on this clip and see if the clapperboard matches the sound. And it does, okay. So we now have a sync map of all the audio that was recorded on that day to all the video that was recorded on that day. And that is a very simple sync map. In the next video, I'll show you how you can turn those clips into locked sync clips.